I will give $5 to anyone who can quote from memory 2 verses from the Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs. And I told Carlton he could not raise his hand, say a word during the whole first part of this summer. Can anybody quote 2 verses from the Song of Solomon? See, my money is safe, my money is secure. I bet if I would make the same offer and say, I would do that to anybody who has even read the Song of Solomon this year. And again, I know Carlton probably has, so he can't answer. But I bet I would be safe if I'd said, have any of you ever read the Song of Solomon? Oh, well, bless your heart. You are better off. It is the least read book in the entire Bible. And here are 2 verses, and this is one of the reasons why. It begins with this, let him kiss me, and this is, well, obviously right. It's the bride. Let him kiss me with the kiss of his mouth, for your love is better than wine, your anointing oils are fragrant. Well, see, that's one of the reasons, because parts of this are kind of, for me, I wouldn't want to read in church, because it's just a little bit embarrassing for me. We don't know what to do with it. And the only way that it actually got into the Bible, those who were compiling the Bible, the canon, they said that it's a love poem, right? It's a love poem from a man to a woman to a man, and they just wax eloquent on their love for each other. Well, they said it's really an allegory of God's love for Israel, or God's love for God's people, or we would say the church. Well, that's not what it is. I mean, I guess you could make it that. They did make it that, but it really is, on the surface, a love poem. So let me read you part of it that I can read, or I feel fairly comfortable reading. And this is part of the scripture that's in your bulletin. My beloved spoke and said to me, arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. See, the winter is past. The rains are over and gone. Flowers appear on the earth. The season of singing has come. The cooing of doves is heard in our land. The fig tree forms its early fruit. The blossoming vines spread their fragrance. Arise, come, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. My dove, in the clefts of the rock and the hiding places on the mountainside, show me your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. I'm sure you say that to your significant others all the time, right? Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom. Where does that come from? I mean, here he is waxing eloquent about springtime and the fragrance of the flowers and the things budding and how beautiful she is and how wonderful it would be to hear her voice. And then all of a sudden he goes, but beware of the little foxes. Why? Because he said, beware of the little foxes because of the tender grapes. Did you know that foxes ate grapes? I didn't know that. Well, do you remember there's an Aesop's fable about this fox that keeps jumping and jumping and jumping, trying to get the grapes and can't, and he just kind of storms off and says, they're sour anyway. And that's where we get our phrase, sour grapes. Well, back then, they did not grow grapes on arbors. They grew them on the ground. And they had stone walls. Now, Nashville, I don't know if they have a lot of stone walls, right? When we lived in Nashville, they're all over the place. They may have them all over the place here. I just haven't noticed them. Well, okay, why the little foxes? I mean, if little foxes come in and do damage, couldn't big foxes come in and do more damage? Well, no, because the little foxes were the only ones that could get through those little cracks in that stone wall. That wall would protect the vineyards and other things from the big foxes and the big predators, but not the little ones. And can't we identify with that? Can't we appreciate that? How many things in our lives, how many relationships in our lives have been hurt, have been maimed, may have been destroyed, not from the big, ominous, horrible things we have a tendency to protect ourselves against, the big things in life. But it's those little things, those small, annoying, nibbling things that just robs the joy out of our life, out of our relationships. It's those little things. So let's kind of look for a minute at the vineyard of marriage. It was Ann Landers who said, all weddings are happy. It's the living together that comes afterward that's trouble. I hope you're not married and laughing. You could be in big trouble right now. But don't we do that when, and we all know this, when you're dating, and it's hard for me to remember what that's like, but when you're dating, you want to put your best foot forward. And you're always affirming the other person. You're always telling them how wonderful they are and how glorious it is. And you're telling them you'd love to give them the sun, the moon, the stars if they were yours to give. But somehow that goes away, doesn't it? After a year, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, why do we stop doing that? Why do we stop affirming? Why do we stop doing those little things that mean so much? There was a song that a lot of you are old enough to remember. It says, throw me a kiss from across the room, say I look nice when I'm not, a line a day when you're far away. Little things mean a lot, and they do. And why do we stop doing those little things? After you're married, and you would say, maybe after you've been married for a long time, I would love to give you the sun, the moon, the stars if they were mine to give. Then your spouse will say, I don't want the sun, the moon, the stars. I just want a weekend. How about just a date night? How about you take the kids just for one day so I don't have to deal with them, so I can go golfing or to the lake or shopping or whatever it is that I want to do? What are some of those little things? Little things will creep in that we don't even realize are wrong, and we think they're normal. Have you heard of somebody called Irma Bombeck? Yeah, we're all old enough to remember Irma Bombeck. She says it about children. Think about this in adult relationships, okay? She wrote on television the other day, a leading child psychologist said parents should treat their children as they would their best friend, with courtesy, dignity, and diplomacy. I have never treated my children any other way, I told myself. But later that night, I thought about it. Did I really talk to my best friends like I talked to my children? Just suppose our good friends Fred and Eleanor came to dinner one night and, well, it's about time you two got here. What have you been doing? Dawdling? Leave those shoes outside, Fred. They've got mud on them. And shut the door. Were you born in a barn? So, Eleanor, how have you been? I've been meaning to have you over for a long time. Fred, take it easy on that dip or you'll ruin your dinner. I didn't work over a hot stove all day to have you nibble like some bird. So, how are the children? If you ask me, I think summer school is great for them. Is everybody hungry? Well, let's go to dinner. You all wash up and I'll take up the food. Don't tell me your hands are clean, Eleanor. I saw you playing with the dog. Fred, I don't see any cauliflower on your plate. Have you even tried it? Well, try a spoonful. If you don't like it, I won't make you finish it. But if you don't try it, you can just forget dessert and sit up straight, or your spine will grow that way. Now, what were we talking about? Have you ever had that conversation with your kids? Well, not now I don't, but, well, of course you have. Okay, don't we do that not just to our kids? Why do we treat probably the most important relationships in our life with so little dignity, diplomacy, and respect? We will talk to our spouse in a way we would never talk to a stranger or our best friend. We will unload in a way that we should never unload. We say things in a way, not just the words, but the manner and the tone which we should never use. Why in the world do we do that? It's easy, it's natural, and it's destructive. They're little foxes. Little foxes coming in to demean the other person. When you talk down to them like parent to a child when they're an adult and you're married to them and they can make their own decisions. And yeah, they make some bad ones, but so do you, so do I, so do we all. But at least treat those decisions with the respect with which you want them to treat your bad decisions when you mess up. Do you want them doing to others you would have them do unto you? Do you want them saying those things to you? Do you want them doing those things to you? Then do not do them to them just because you're trying to. Well, usually it's because that's the presenting problem. Isn't that what they say? It's not really the cause of the argument itself. You just kind of need to keep in your mind dignity, diplomacy, respect in all of life's relationships. And I'm trying to think whether I should put it here if I'll remember to do it later, so hopefully I'll remember to do it later. We do this in all of life's important relationships. But let me share with you something I think I've probably shared with you before from Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families. It's worth hearing again if you have heard it, Entropy. And this is what he says about it. And I've quoted this, and I'm sure, I think I've already given it to you in one of those daily Bible verse things. Okay, in physics, this means that anything left to itself will eventually disintegrate until it reaches its most elemental form. Neglect your body, and it will deteriorate. Neglect your car, it will deteriorate. Watch TV every available hour, and your mind will deteriorate. Anything that is not consciously attended to and renewed will break down, become disordered, and deteriorate. Use it or lose it is the maxim. Richard L. Evans puts it this way: all things need watching, working at, caring for, and marriage is no exception. Marriage is not something to be treated indifferently or abused, or something that simply takes care of itself. Nothing neglected will remain as it is or was, or will fail to deteriorate. All things need attention, care, and concern, and especially so in the most sensitive of all relationships. And so he says, so also in regard to the family culture, it requires constant deposits into the emotional bank account just to keep it where it is, because you are dealing with continuing relationships and continuing expectations. So do you realize that, and we talk about the emotional bank account, or I have several times, and just kind of remind you, for every negative thing in your relationship, psychologists say you have to say how many positive things. That's a real question because I've forgotten, but it's about 5 or 10 for every negative, because the negatives stick to our brain, the positives don't. And you need to constantly reinforce what you love, like, care about, appreciate in the other person. Otherwise, it deteriorates. And that's why I've said, and I hope you understand what I mean when I say nagging never works. It doesn't. What happens, and Covey says, you're constantly depleting the emotional bank account. You're not making any deposits. And then you wonder why, after a few years of doing this, your wife or your husband leaves. There is nothing there to love anymore. It is constant withdrawals, and you need to make more deposits than you do the withdrawals. Okay, what about the other important relationship, or another important relationship in your life? Now, obviously, we believe the most important relationship in your life is Jesus Christ. Then your relationship with your family and with others. Where do we go to help us with our relationship with Jesus Christ? The church. And in the church, we have relationships. That is a vineyard. And we need to take care of our relationship with each other within the church, and our relationship with God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit dwelling within us. I was going to look at Duncan, but I lost. There he is. When I entered ministry, and back in 1966, in the same presbytery, Presbytery of East Tennessee. My father's a minister, and he was wonderful advice that he would give me. One of the pieces of advice he gave me was, be selective about what you're willing to be crucified over. If it doesn't matter, don't make it matter. I know a church that almost split over the color of carpet in the sanctuary. Does the color of the carpet in the sanctuary matter? Well, of course it does. But don't make it matter too much. Don't make it matter more than your relationships with the people you worship with. Yeah, you can disagree, but don't make it matter. How are we going to fix the leak? What are we going to do with the spire? And we may not all agree on how to do that. Does it matter what we do with it? Well, of course it matters. But don't make it matter too much. Don't let it matter more than your relationship with the people you're worshiping with. Does the style of worship, the music that we sing, does it matter? The order of worship, does it matter? Well, of course it matters. And all of it matters to me. But it shouldn't matter too much. It shouldn't matter more than the people with whom I'm worshiping and what their wishes and concerns are. And it's usually when we start being crucified over something that takes precedent over relationships that churches do split and people leave. And they don't want to become or continue to be a part of it. Somebody says, and I got this from John Maxwell's book, I don't know if he said it, a person is really the size of the thing it takes to make them mad. Sometimes I'm pretty small. Sometimes it doesn't take much at all. And every time that happens, I always feel guilty because I know better. I know that this is not worth injuring a relationship, bruising a relationship. And when that happens, I just pray that I've made enough deposits in the emotional bank account of that other person, a friend of mine, that it doesn't deplete it and hurt that relationship to the point of not returning or coming back. Do you remember the children's sermon? Yeah, well, what you remember about it is all the balls going everywhere. I know what you remember. But it's Mary and Martha. And it is, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the right thing? Okay, I'm going to read the passage. Do I need to read it? Do you know what this is? As Jesus and his disciples were on the way, he came to a village of a woman named Martha. I'm doing it in a hurry. Opened her home to him. She said she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted, key word, was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Now, was what she was doing wrong? No. It was exactly what was expected of her in that situation. So it wasn't wrong. And the comment I want to make is one that is often made. The greatest enemy of the best is the second best. It just wasn't the better thing to do. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. I would have said the same thing, absolutely, because I'm supposed to be doing this. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one right now at this time. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. No, what she was doing was not wrong, but it wasn't the better thing to do then. What is implied in this? Said, Martha, I'm not going to be here forever, and he wasn't. This may be the last time you have an opportunity to sit, listen to me, talk with me, visit with me. Yes, all of those other things are important, but it's not the best thing right now. And it's extremely difficult for us at times to realize what the best thing is. We can get distracted by 4 balls trying to be thrown in the air. And we take our eyes off the prize. We take our eyes off the cross. We take our eyes off that which we need to pay attention to. I'm sitting at the beginning of the service listening to a beautiful prelude, and my mind wandered to a problem I need to deal with. And it's a worry. It's not just a concern, because it keeps popping up in my mind. And God said to me, hey, you don't ever let a minister tell that to you. That's a bad thing. But I heard God say to me, Martha, quit that. You are here for one purpose and one purpose only. Pay attention to what you're doing. And what I'm doing is a little different than what you're doing, because I am getting ready to share with you. Don't let that distract you. Why are you here now? Every one of us can name people who can't be in church. And almost all of them that I know say, I wish I could be. I miss being here. You don't know how many opportunities you will have to sit in this sanctuary or any sanctuary, wherever you go to church, and to worship. We don't know when that's going to be taken away from us because of an accident or an illness. And there are individuals who have had both of those things that are keeping them from being here. And so don't miss the opportunity you have now, because it may not come again. And let me just re-emphasize again, in your relationships. And it happens, and I apologize for this. Some things just pop into my mind when I'm preaching, and I worry later about whether I should say it. But when our kids are at home, we forget we're not always going to have them. And they're going to go off to college, and they will get married, and they will have kids. And you'll go, I wish I would have spent more time with them while they were here. And you may need to juggle 2, 3 balls, but don't juggle too many, that you ignore the family, that you ignore your spouse, that you ignore the relationships in your life, because they will deteriorate. And then one day, because I did spend, I think, a lot of quality and quantity time with my kids, but I'd love to be able to do it again. I'd love to be able to have those moments back, and to go back. Well, I'll wait and I'll try to remember to do it at the end. There is I don't know if any of you, I love this. I found this graphic when I was trying to find Mary and Martha, and I went, that is so cool. Love like Mary, sit at the Lord's feet, and serve like Martha. Yeah, I like that a lot. But know when it's time to love and when it's time to serve. When you've got one too many balls in the air, you need to get rid of something. So make sure you get rid of the right thing and not something that's inappropriate. And if it's inappropriate, get rid of that as quickly as you can. Do you remember, and this is what I was going to say, do you remember that book? Some of you had it not too long ago in Sunday school, right? So it's been a long time since I have read the Screwtape Letters. I love C.S. Lewis. Remind me, make sure I get this right. Screwtape is a senior devil, right? A senior tempter. And he is writing to Wormwood. Isn't Wormwood his nephew? A junior tempter. He is just getting started. And really, according to C.S. Lewis, everybody has a special agent assigned to them to keep them on the road to hell, to keep them making bad decisions, terrible decisions, decisions that will lead them away from God. And a lot of people believe everybody has a guardian angel, right? That leads us to make right decisions, good decisions. I don't think we need a guardian angel. We may have them. I've got the Holy Spirit. I think that's a pretty good guide right there. But the image, I believe in angels. But he is writing to Wormwood, trying to encourage him and show him how to be a really good tempter to lead people away from God. And Wormwood just found out that his charge started going to church, and he's in a panic. And so Screwtape writes, listen, so he's joining a church. The situation isn't as bad as you think, but you'll have to proceed with caution. Go with him whenever he goes to church. Never leave his side, and always keep him aware of the little things, the squeak in the usher's shoes, a hymn he doesn't like, the decorations. some hypocrite or other. Keep him aware always of the little things. Don't let him see the church with her banners flying, for that is the sight at which all hell trembles. The more you keep him aware of the little issues, the more you've got him on our team. And that is huge to me. Keep your eyes focused on what Paul is saying, the cross of Christ, with the banners flying, the love of Christ, the grace of Christ, the mercy, the forgiveness, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Keep your eyes focused on the prize. Your eyes on the prize, on that which is truly important. And not, you're going to get a lot of little distractions. There are always going to be something you do not like. You cannot like everything about your marriage, your children, your church, your life. Okay, fill in the blank. Whatever it is, you're not going to like everything. There are going to be little distractions, little annoyances. Don't let it distract you from the main thing. So what's the solution? Actually, I probably should have put suggestions, but that's kind of what popped up in my mind at the time. I'll give you 3 quickly. Number 1, realize there are little foxes. Realize how dangerous they are. And it can destroy relationships. Okay, the one thing I kept putting off saying, and I got to be real careful about how I say this, right now, politics has become very divisive and explosive, and I guess maybe it always has been. It just seems more pronounced. But there are people, if you have a different political opinion than they do, it's not that you have a different opinion. It's you're the enemy, and you're somebody to be defeated. And you will let these, does it matter what they believe? Does it matter, we all want to make America great. We disagree on how to do that. Does it matter? Of course it does. Your opinion on all the issues that are inflaming people absolutely matter. But it shouldn't matter too much. It shouldn't matter more than the relationship you have with that person who disagrees with you. What is it Jesus said? Hate your enemies, persecute them. No, love everybody. And he said, love your enemies. You care about their opinion. You treat it with as much respect as you want them to treat your opinion. Evidently, people in their own party can't do that with each other. It just amazes me how little respect we have for fellow human beings. Yeah, are we always going to agree? Absolutely not. But they're little foxes. And I guarantee you, if you let them get into any area, and it can be religion, and we're not going to agree on everything in religion, even in Cumberland Presbyterian religion, even in Presbyterians divided 7 times. We couldn't even agree, but realize how, and we're going through a couple of major things right now. Everybody is. Does it matter? Of course it matters. Don't let it matter more than people. So recognize the little foxes and recognize them for what they are. It's wormwood. It's screw tape. And I do believe this, it's the evil one trying to pull us apart and destroy us. Let him into your life. Let those little evil things roam around. Get angry, bitter, resentful. Shut them off. Treat them like enemies. And he wins. You don't, God wins. And God wins every time you treat people with dignity and respect. So focus on Jesus. Focus on the high banners flying. Focus on that love, grace, mercy, forgiveness, tolerance. Focus on the fruit of the Spirit. And I guess what we need to do more than anything else is pray. Just pray for strength and wisdom so we can recognize those foxes, so we will realize what they are, and so we will know how to act, what to say, how to respond to people. And maybe we need to pray this simple little prayer. Lord, protect us from the little foxes, for our vines have tender grapes. Amen.